Hey guys, Joe here, the Joe Madden Sports Podcast. I'm joined this afternoon by Chris Meaney, host of Mean Street and Dangle Bet, Celly, FTN and Network. Chris, how's your morning treating you? Your day going?
Not bad, Joe. Yesterday was weird with no hockey. Like that was strange, right? I don't
It
know what to do
was.
with myself. I did a little bit of yard work, played a little bit of golf, but I was really missing the hockey last night. And the day is going good. Appreciate you taking the time to bring me back on your show, and we'll have you on Mean Streets tomorrow. So I'm looking forward to that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So am I. And I cannot wait for this hockey game tonight. Like you said, weird day yesterday, but kind of like riding the highs of the Saturday game. Did you expect us to be here in game seven?
I no, I'm not gonna lie. There's no question. I did not think that this series would go seven. I thought that it would probably be over pretty quickly. I did give the Rangers two games. Originally, I had Carolina in six, and on the series spread at 1.5. I kind of had to hedge that yesterday, but clearly those were two wrong picks. The way that the series has gone, though, I feel like that was kind of predictable, right? We had a couple other series where we saw a lot of offense, and then this one in particular has just been unders have hit, except for the last game, and they've been at 5.5 and even juice to the under. In some spots, I'm seeing under 5 at plus money, so that hasn't really surprised me. The lack of offense. Igor Shesterkin has looked like the Hart nominee, Vezina nominee that we saw in the regular season that kind of struggled at times in the opening round against the Penguins, but I did not give the Rangers 3 wins. I'm not gonna lie. I did not see that coming.
Yeah, and honestly, when we started this, I really did think the Canes would take it all fast. I was with you there. But now I don't know. With how Igor is playing, kind of leaning on the Rangers tonight. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I would not fault anyone for leaning on the Rangers. This is a tough series to call. I mean, this is a tough game to call. It's game seven. Anything can happen. And it's so nice that we are getting a game seven. We kind of got spoiled in the opening round with all those game sevens. So it's nice to see one here before we officially get to round three. You know what? When I look at game sevens, home ice advantage is key for me all the time, and it's certainly very key for the Hurricanes in these playoffs. They're perfect here on home ice at 7-0, which is remarkable to think about. But and also the goaltending would be that second
Yeah.
box that I would check, right, Joe? Who's got the better goalie? Who's got home ice? Carolina. Who's got the better goalie? Shesterkin. Who's had the better special teams? And it has been the Rangers. I'd lean with Carolina here, though. I feel like a sucker for saying it because, yes, they won on every home game. They've won, but the splits are so crazy, Joe. 3.57 goals per game for Carolina on home ice in the 7 games, 1.14 goals against. They were the best team at 5-5 throughout the regular season. Nobody allowed fewer goals than this team. They were strong on both ends of the ice, 5-5. They had the number one PK. And here in the power play and the penalty kill at home, they've been great. They've been fine. You got the penalty kill is 67% on the road compared to 89% on home ice.
Huge
The power
difference.
play, it's wild. And the power play is operating at 19% on home ice and 4% on the road. They've only managed to score 1.67 goals for on the road and 4.33 against. It's completely 180, and it's a team that they were one of the better teams in the league on the road. So I don't understand that. Nobody had more road wins than them in the Eastern
Yeah.
Conference, but they're back home where they seem to play their best hockey, comfortable there. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt on home ice. But Joe, I'll ask you this: like, if this game is tied in the third or it goes to overtime, anybody wants to do some live betting?
Yeah.
The Rangers would probably be in play for me, just given how good Igor is in that type of situation, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I got to ask what you think of one of the bets I put out this morning. The New York Rangers on the reverse puck line in the first period only. In the first period, we get them at plus 225 on that reverse puck line. I think they can go up first. I didn't end up betting the whole game, leaning on the Rangers for the full game, but that reverse puck line in the first is where I put my money.
I like it. Yeah, I like it a lot. I think, typically you see with some of these game sevens, it's not wide open. It hasn't been wide open anyways. It's been tight checking. The Rangers have done well in Carolina. They hung around. You could say that they deserved to win game one. They gave it up late, lost in
Yes.
overtime, and then they had a pretty strong game two despite the loss as well. And even going in there uh, earlier in the series too, right? To try to get a W and they didn't get it. They eventually got game 6 on their home ice, but they've hung around. It's been tight. So I could see a 0-0 game if they get up early. Like you said, that would be momentum for the Rangers to get that first goal, having Igor Shesterkin in there as well. So an early first goal by New York, you probably get there. And, with the reverse puck line, if this is a tight game with no goals, you probably get there as well. It's really hard to call props in this series.
This series is impossible. One prop I do like is we know Igor is going to stand on his head. When we look at this series so far, Carolina's averaging 32.5 shots on goal, with the majority of those being in those last couple games. They were really limited in the first and second games for their shots on goal. Now we can get Igor over 31.5. Are you willing to hit on that, Chris?
I am, yeah. That's one of the ones that I do like. I wanted to give that one on Mean Streets, but it wasn't out in the morning before we got going. But that is one that I like. And overall, again, like for Carolina, for me, it is the 5-on-5 play that you kind of alluded to, and the shot attempts and the saves potentially that Igor could get. I know if anybody's playing DFS, you could consider him as your captain tonight. Maybe the save bonus could be in play, but just listen to some of these numbers at 5-on-5 in this series. Carolina holds the edge in just about every single category, really. They own 55% of the shot attempts. They own 57% of the shots, 59% of the scoring chances, 58% of the expected goals, and 69% of the high danger chances. Yet the Rangers have more goals than the Hurricanes at 5-on-5. Why? Because Igor Shesterkin, he's been that good. So I do expect Carolina to throw a lot of pucks towards the net today. They've really shown us that they do that on home ice throughout the entire season and in the playoffs. So I love that call as well. I do have one prop with Aho, but
okay, what's his prop tonight?
Forward. So it's really tough with there's been a lack of consistency with shot props and points for some of these guys, but Aho has been good on home ice. So 2.5 shots over at FanDuel is minus 124. He's cleared 2.5 shots in 5 of his 7 home games here in the playoffs. He's also minus 145 to have a point. He's got 4 goals and 8 points in 7 home games as well. And he's got 2 goals and 5 points in 6 games in this series. So it's a little bit of it's a bit much, the point one for juice at minus 145. But if I'm picking any Hurricane here to show up tonight on home ice, it would be their best player in Sebastian Aho. But I do like the shots slightly more than the points. And if I'm looking at a Ranger, it would be Mika Zibanejad on the other side. He's been pretty good lately and in this series as well.
Oh, I like both of those. I'm definitely going to tail that shots on goal for Aho there. I think it's a great way to take this. You said minus 125 for over the 2.5?
Yeah, over the 2.5.
Beautiful.
You get that over at FanDuel, and I think DK's got a similar price. I think minus 124 on FanDuel, minus 125 on DK.
Okay, perfect. I love it. Now, tomorrow night, we have a great game. We've got game 1 of the series between the Edmonton Oilers and the Colorado Avalanche. Chris, what are you looking at for this series? Do you have a winner picked yet?
I do. In my heart, I want Edmonton. I originally wanted Calgary. I wanted your Flames. I'm so bummed that I just feel like we got burned. We got robbed of more games in that series. I mean, 4 goals.
Okay, I got to ask you.
Ugh.
I've got to ask you, when that puck went in and they called it back, that he kicked it in. Did he kick it in? As a Calgary Flames fan, I looked at it 100 times saying there was no way. Already had forward momentum.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
I'm biased.
You're
biased?
Yeah, you're a little biased. Sure, it's fine. And I may be a little bit as well, as I was on the Flames bandwagon, right? I was rooting for this team. I had a cup future on them.
You're saddled up beside me.
So I was saddled up at the Saddle Dome, hoping for more W's from the Flames. But no, it wasn't. It wasn't a kicking motion, right? The rule is so strange. You can redirect a puck in, but you can't kick it in. I've seen so many goals this season which were just looked a lot worse than that, like a clear kicking motion, and they called it. Basically, you're saying the NHL is saying to me that Blake Coleman is one of the best athletes of all time. He was going full tilt into the goalie. He was getting pushed into Mike Smith. His other skate was caught up in the pad, and the other one is kind of falling forward as he's getting pushed in. It is very difficult for anybody who knows and plays hockey or just skates on their own to do something like that on one foot to kick in. Yes, there's no question he redirected, and he basically said that in the postgame too, Joe. Like, he was unsure of the rule. He redirected it in. It should have counted. I'm shocked that it didn't count.
Yeah.
And I thought they got burned. It's almost like, was it 2004 when the Flames were in the finals? And I was living in Red Deer at the time, and they scored. Martin Gelinas scored that goal across the line, and they called it no goal The Lightning went on to win that game and then win in Game 7 in the playoff, won the Stanley Cup. But that was on the front page of not only every paper in Calgary, but in Canada, Alberta especially, that
was a goal.
that crossed the line. Yeah, they got
right?
burned. They got burned.
So was a goal. I knew exactly what you were talking about as soon as you said, was it? And I'm like, yeah, 2004. That's exactly when our hearts broke.
You won't ever forget it. Yeah, so I guess I'm on the Oilers bandwagon now. I'm not sure.
Okay.
You know, it's a tough matchup for them. I do think Colorado wins. I'd like to see the Oilers win for sure. For selfish reasons, I guess, is, you know, see a Canadian team battle and you know, Connor McDavid. I'd like the underdog. I typically like to root for underdogs when I have like nothing really on the line between the two teams, but I feel like Colorado is certainly deeper than the Edmonton Oilers, and they got the better goaltender, even though Mike Smith has had moments in the playoffs and down the stretch. He's looked pretty good. He's carried them this far. That's more than I think anybody really expected, but it is the question mark that I have with this Edmonton team, and plus the blue line for Colorado is a little bit deeper. You know, Avs in 6, plus 380. I'm giving Edmonton a couple wins. Why not, right? Nashville hung around against them, and the Blues won a couple games, and McDavid and Draisaitl are absolutely on fire right now. You can get Colorado in the series spread at -1.5 at -125. So I think that's a decent bet.
Yeah, so do I. I really like the way that you're looking at that. I can't wait, though, for the matchup between Connor McDavid and Nathan MacKinnon. I think we're going to have a phenomenal series here. Are you looking for a higher scoring one? Because I'm expecting the books to come out with 7s. I know it's at 6.5 for tomorrow, but I think we're going to see higher lines in this one.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, Joe, in most spots, it's 7. You can still get a couple 6.5s. You're right. But that may not be here tomorrow. And I don't expect it to be here tomorrow. I think we'll see some offense. I really do. There wasn't a lot of offense between these two teams. They played 3 times in the regular season, and I think a majority of the games were down the stretch. Definitely 2 in March. Don't quote me on that. But they were meaningful games on both sides. Colorado's missing some players. I think Makar missed 1 game, and Gabriel Landeskog wasn't with them down the stretch. But the Oilers won one of those 3, and the other 2, one went to a shootout, one went to overtime. So they hung around with the Avs, but I do expect to see some offense. It's tough to sit here and say, you know, take the over on 7 every single time, but that's probably what we're going to get, is a total of 7 for the majority of the games, unless it starts low scoring. I just see offense. I don't know how you slow down McDavid and Draisaitl. They're probably good for 2 or 3 themselves as a line. And we know how powerful the Avs are too. And the Flames are so good at 5-5, so strong defensively. I know Markstrom didn't have his best series, but they gave up a lot of goals against the Oilers. Same thing for the Kings. Another really good 5-5 team, and they gave up. You can only do so much. The Avs are going to give up some quality chances, and they're going to create their own as well.
Absolutely. It might be a good look at some team totals in this series as well, depending on if the books give either team a 2.5 at lighter juice, which would probably be the Oilers tomorrow night in that game. So
maybe we jump on Edmonton early. Maybe a little underdog right off the get-go. The Oilers definitely love the call by you. 2.5 is really intriguing. I will throw one thing out for your viewers and your listeners. So there's a couple series versus, you know, this player versus that player. We've had a little bit of luck over at FTN with some of that. Last series they had McKinnon versus Rantanen goals, and McKinnon was the underdog at +100. I'm not seeing him as an underdog this time around. He's -140 to have more goals than Evander Kane, but I really like McDavid at -130 over Rantanen for goals. Rantanen only has 1 goal. He is a goal scorer. Things are just not going his way in the playoffs. That could certainly switch in the 3rd round here, but he's a pass-first guy. So I would lean Connor McDavid over Rantanen for goals at -130. And then I wanted to throw out McKinnon to lead the series in goals at +550, and maybe a long shot with Kadri at 11-1. But man, there's just so many players that could lead this series in goals. It should be really fun.
Yeah, absolutely. These teams are absolutely loaded. It's going to be phenomenal. Chris, I want to thank you for joining me here. Can you let us know what you have happening on Mean Streets this week or Dangle Bet, Celly?
Yeah, I appreciate it. So I will actually be away for a majority of the week towards the end. I'm standing in one of my friend's weddings, so we won't have live shows on Mean Streets as per usual. We usually have like some NBA props and some NHL props and as well as baseball stuff. But recording a few best ball drafts, underdog best ball, fantasy football, right? I know it seems like a long ways away from football season, but there are a lot of people who are drafting now. We have some rankings and projections over at our ftnfantasy.com website. So the rest of the week after tomorrow with you, we'll break down, I guess last night, take a look at Tampa and who will it be?
Yeah, that'd be good.
And also look at Colorado and Edmonton. So with you tomorrow, us two over on Mean Streets, and I appreciate that. Really looking forward to it. And the rest of the weeks, it's going to be a lot of football stuff. An early look at Super Bowl odds, early look at win totals, and just like some fantasy football draft targets. Really going to walk through an actual draft live on the show from all the rounds, kind of give you a little bit of feel where players are going, refresh your memory of the craziness that was the offseason in the NFL. Guys were switching places like no other offseason I had ever seen before. So appreciate you allowing me to plug that. Mean Streets is at noon Eastern from our FTN YouTube page, Monday to Friday.
Yeah, you guys don't miss out. Chris has so much great content coming out here at FTN Networks. It's phenomenal, everything you've got going on, Chris. I love watching you. So you guys, thank you for joining us here. I will catch you tomorrow for another Joe Madden Sports podcast. Have a great day, Chris, and thank you again.
Thanks.